everybody, I'm Bree the Plant Lady.
I'm Abby the gardener.
Aiden the helper.
And we are here at the one and only JC Raulston Arboretum on NC State's campus here in Raleigh, North Carolina. It's the middle of January. We have horrible weather in the forecast, but hopefully today we're going to see some cool things, and we're excited to show you around all the beautiful winter interest plants here at the Raulston Arboretum. So let's go take a stroll. Well, here, the entrance of the Asian Valley, they have created this beautiful wooden structure, and they've got some gorgeous concrete lions to go here. So let's walk through the Asian Valley. This is always one of my favorite parts of the garden. You see the bananas have been trimmed back. I cut mine similarly, where I just trimmed the leaves off, and look at they started to actually grow again, but that'll be short-lived. We have a really horrible forecast. Lows in the low teens, snow multiple times, possibility of ice. Ugh. But doesn't this garden look awesome? What's interesting here is the combination of deciduous plants like Japanese maples, and then all the different broadleaf evergreens. You know, things like aspidistra right here, sarcococca. This is a cute little sarcococca. Fragrant mountain, different ferns. And that's really what the Arboretum is such a great place to learn from. You know, it's just such a broad diversity in the genera. This is one of my favorites. I don't actually have this growing. Nagia. I happen to just think, I like plants that look like plastic. Feel this. It feels like plastic.
Oh, it does.
And it's really great in cut flower arrangements because it lasts for a really long time. I'd have to try and get my hands on one of those. And of course, different cryptomerias. This is one of my all-time favorite plants, and this will bloom in the spring. This is Stachyurus praecox, and this is one that was actually found here as a sport here at the Arboretum by my friend Tim Alderton. This is Carolina parakeet, and this is just one of those plants that I have always loved, and I'm really excited to have some more property to be able to grow these on because they're quite large. Go stand next to that. Give people a scale. It's a lot taller than Abby. So here we've got a hardy citrus, and I actually have a plant from this giant tree, which is totally hardy. And here, let me see your fruits. Now, they happen to taste terrible, and I know this from experience. They're very, very bitter, but you can make marmalade with them if you add enough sugar. You can kind of fix it. But in general, I grow this as an ornamental plant. I just think it's super interesting. Other plants to note here next to Aiden is a really, I think, really cool fine leaf bambusa. This is called fern leaf. This is the variety. And this is a clumping bamboo. Now, that doesn't mean that it doesn't take up some room, but it doesn't run like traditional bamboo does. So whenever somebody's like, I really want bamboo, particularly to use as a screen, these clumping varieties are generally what is recommended. Look at this cute little akuba, which is a collection from a trip to China, and it was China put out flowers. That is really interesting. I really like akuba. The Raulston Arboretum is renowned for their akuba collection, and I know director Mark Wethington has a huge thing for akubas, so if you're into them, this is definitely an important resource. Well, it's the plant I love and simultaneously hate. I love it because it smells so good. Here, come smell this, you guys. But I can't grow them to save my life. This is Daphne odora myjima. And I think every time I come to the Arboretum, I lust after this. The critical thing for Daphne is drainage, drainage, drainage. And you see how this is in a raised bed, and I'm sure it has, you know, probably permatil added to the soil to increase the drainage. It's very sensitive to wet feet, very sensitive to winter wet, which is just part of the reality of the southeastern climate. But I'm always so inspired seeing them here at the Arboretum, where they have created the proper environment where not only do they live, but they thrive. Well, look at this in flower, and this is Fatsia polycarpa, a Taiwan species of Fatsia. Most people are familiar with Fatsia japonica, the Japanese form. This is really quite spectacular, and look at those blooms. These ones haven't quite opened, but you can see what they look like when they do open. They kind of look like COVID, like the COVID molecule. That is quite a handsome plant. Well, I'd say the volunteers at the Arboretum have been busy building structures. Look at that excellent entryway leading you into the White Garden, which is where they have the gazebo, and that's often a place where people will rent to have weddings. And of course that's an important stream of revenue, and also just a wonderful use of this beautiful garden. And that is a grand entrance. How exciting! We love seeing progress made here. Of course, this is the big lawn. And it feels really nice to be out here in the sun. Well, the recent cold weather has definitely slowed things down, but it's nice to see some anemone in bloom. I bet these were really gorgeous before the temperatures dropped. You know, we have a really weird climate here in that, you know, we went from 80 to 20. It's good now that we have kind of steady colder temperatures, because that's, you know, what we really should be experiencing in January, even though I don't like it. And one of our favorite features here is the Bee Hotel, and Abby just pointed it out. I hope we can build something, maybe not that big, but something similar to be a place for pollinators to be able to have a home and overwinter. And this one I think is just particularly pretty. You can see you can use a lot of different materials, things like bamboo stalks, you know, bricks with holes, logs with holes drilled into them. So this is definitely something that I love, and I hope we'll make one of these this year. Out here in another big lawn area. This is sort of the front section of the Arboretum. And then looking over here is where the winter garden starts. And look what's blooming. Do you recognize those pink flowers? They're the Prunus mumes, like what I have in my garden. So here's the original arbor at the White Garden. And this is actually a great example of why I don't grow vines on like my pergola, because it's really hard to manage the structure when you have plants growing on it. And so this one is, you know, kind of, well, it could use a little repair and some, you know, repainting. But I'm glad to see that they have built another one that's kind of a matching structure. And we'll see, it'll be interesting to see if they decide whether they want to grow plants on it or not. My recommendation is not to grow plants on wooden structures. You're better off, if you want to grow plants on it, make it out of steel. Well, holy cow. This is a buddleia, silver anniversary or something. Look at all the flowers on it. That's crazy. It is the middle of January. It looks like it got knocked down. Some branches are broken from last week's ice storm. And considering our forecast, probably more damage to happen tomorrow, Friday, Saturday. But what an unusual sight to see a buddleia in bloom in January. And for those of you wondering, this is Buddleia cordata, the Mexican butterfly bush. So I have never grown this, and I'm really intrigued by it now. We are on the way into the winter garden, and I see one of my all-time favorite plants in bloom right now. It is the winter sweet, Chimonanthus praecox, and this is the outstanding variety luteus, named for these incredible bright yellow flowers. I have a seed grown plant that usually blooms more in December, and it's like a dirty white. And I am determined to get some scion wood from this and graft it so that I can have this growing. And that is a great 2022 goal. I like to set my goals realistically, don't I, Abby?
Yeah.
That's not too big of an ask. This is #1 plant on my wish list, and it smells absolutely fantastic. If you've never grown winter sweet, definitely look it up. So here is another Chimonanthus praecox, no cultivar name. So that means it was probably seed grown. You can see how tall it is with a big open habit, multi-stem. And this one's great because it has also these nice waxy yellow flowers.
That does smell good.
It's a winner. This is obviously a plant meant for the back of a border. You don't want to prune this into a meatball, just let it grow and then you won't be aggravated by the maintenance. But really, it's a must grow. Here's another Stachyurus. I just think it looks so cool with those flower spikes dangling, particularly against the Carolina blue sky. I mean, everything looks good against a clear blue sky.
Yeah.
But again, these bloom more like April, but you know, it gives you something to look forward to all season long. Can't not acknowledge this awesome Aspidistra. I think this is a Sahi. Actually, let's see, here's a, yes it is. And I talk about this a lot, but I really love the cast iron plant, but I really like these variegated forms. You can see it's at the base of a huge holly, no irrigation, no fertilizer, no deer damage, planted with it, Helleborus hybridus. And it's just like a super low maintenance, high impact for dry shade. I just can't say enough about it. And then next to it here is a ruscus, which also, you know, has all those same attributes. This is Wheeler's variety, and it's related to that plant that I showed you earlier that looked like plastic. And this one's actually quite sharp, and you see it gets these really great red berries that give you a lot of winter interest, but tough as nails, dry shade, and deer hate it. So this pocket right here is really a valuable plant combination for people who have to garden in dense shade with a lot of animals. This is a combo that I would highly recommend. Well, we obviously missed the Iris unguicularis. These definitely got nipped by the cold, and they were much earlier than like what normal would be, simply because we were so mild over the holiday season. Now behind it is another winter sweet, and this is more the color that mine is. You see, it's like a sort of a dirty white, sort of very pale yellow, and it's still wonderfully fragrant, but I just have a thing for that bright yellow of luteus. But here again, Chimonanthus can be grown in full sun to shade, and animals leave it alone, and you can of course cut these branches and bring them in to enjoy the fragrance in cut flower arrangements. All right, we're coming into the sunny section of the winter garden, and there's quite a few stars here. Here's Elysium Florida Sunshine, Another great plant for deer resistance. It has this sort of anise smelling foliage. Behind that, Harry Lauder's walking stick, Corylus avellana contorta. And I love using that. You know, I like using the branches in arrangements. Next to that is Poncirus trifoliata flying dragon. One of my favorite hardy citruses, mostly because not only do the animals not mess with it, but they're legitimately afraid of it. And that's because of these giant thorns that are all over the branches. So again, coming to the Arboretum is a really great way to get inspiration for your own property. And these are all plants that are readily available in the nursery trade. Well, hello, beautiful. This Mahonia is outstanding. And even on a crisp day like today, you've got bee activity on it. This is awesome, and I don't know what species this is. I don't see a tag. So I'm gonna have to ask my plant nerd friend Tim, because I need an ID. These flowers are just so pretty. And yeah, this is actually normal. It's typically blooming sometime in January, February. And again, Mahonia, perfect for dry shade. Deer don't bother it. Doesn't need to be watered or fertilized. And next to that here is a really beautiful camellia, which might be Tama peacock, because it has these flowers that sort of dangle down. I don't see the label on this side. Obviously, the camellias have definitely been getting nipped because of the cold temperatures, but this is covered in bloom still, and that's the advantage of being planted under a giant redwood. That's right, this is a sequoia, and it provides a great little microclimate to help shield sensitive plants from extreme temperatures. And here on the edge of the winter garden is a quince that is blooming. This is Canomaly speciosa contorta, because of course it has these great contorted branches. Quince, of course, have thorns, but not terribly sharp. And it's just a great plant that does bloom on bare branches, typically in the middle of winter. Does anybody want to guess what those green balls are in that tree? I'm going to give you a hint. You kiss underneath them at Christmas. Mistletoe, indeed. Mistletoe is a parasitic plant that actually attaches itself to these branches and absorbs nutrients from the tree that it's growing off of. And I believe that that is a hackberry, like the one that I have growing in the giant pot out front. That would be Celtis sinensis. And we'll have to inquire whether they leave the mistletoe here on purpose as maybe an example to people. I'm curious. All the years I've been coming here, to be honest, I've really never noticed this mistletoe infestation. This is where we did the direct seed sowing for the class. It doesn't look as good as I had hoped it would. However, there's a lot of things that are growing. First of all, this is all poppies. This is all daikon radish. This is barley that's clearly being eaten every single day by rabbits. They might have a deer in here as well. What else do I see? Over here, I see money plant, lunaria. That's what's germinating here. Overall, it's pretty good, and there's a lot of poppies. So this will be really, really pretty with all of these poppies blooming in the spring. Overall, I think the Arboretum has a lot going on for the middle of January. What do you guys think? A lot to see, so much to learn. It's endless here. And there's Doug. We're gonna see Doug later this afternoon. Hi, dog.
Hello, everybody.
All right, we found Tim. We're gonna head back to JC Raulston headquarters. We're gonna grab lunch. Then we are going to attend our first ever horticulture class at NC State. And then we're coming back to the Arboretum so that we can be a part of your Wednesday series. What is it
midweek.
called?
I'm not sure what it's called. It's the midweek programming.
Midweek programming. And I'll try to add a link to this description so that you can also watch that. It's going to be all about favorite tools. We've all brought some, but Doug has a tool that I'm super excited to see in action, which I've not ever been introduced to. So you see, every day is a new learning experience. All right, everybody, thanks so much for watching. Have a good day.